Hey everybody. I just wanted to kick this thing off with the oldest and probably the worst car I've ever owned. Not to, say that it really is any worse than the Cutlass was, but for argument's sake, this was probably the worst one I've had. Or worst two I've had, I should say. I'm going to just kind of combine these two cars into the one episode due to the same fact that they're pretty much the same damn thing. It's the same engines, the same platform, the same chassis, all that kind of stuff. The only thing different was the colors and the model years, pretty much. But so, as I brought up before, they are the Sundance and the Dodge Shadow. The model years really don't make a difference due to the simple fact, they didn't really change a whole lot over the course of the car's history and life. Um, from what I have been reading and some little research that I've done. They did facelift with headlamps and added driver's side airbag, and they did a convertible version, which I never had, and then they finally added a V6 that was in the later in the model years in the 92s, and they had ABX added in 93. But I had a base model for both of them, so I didn't have any of that stuff. So it's just kind of a bare bones minimum car. But I mean, this is back in the day, in the late 90s, early 2000s. So you could buy a car for under $1,000 that was good, in good shape. I mean, nowadays to get anything that's decently running, you're talking about 1,500, 2,000 bucks, and that's going to be a shit box. But it might be running. But nowadays, that I bought these two cars. I think one of them had like 105,000 miles, and the other one had like 80,000 miles on it. So finding a car like that for under $1,000 that's not rusted out or completely beaten to hell is, a moon rock pretty much as far as I'm concerned. But so basically, what I wanted to do was just do a little bit of a dive into each one of them. I didn't really like either of them. As I said before, they were more utilitarian than anything else. I did some research into them when I first bought them, thinking, it's my first car, got a little bit of money, and like, all right, maybe I could make it look a little bit better or, try to tune it up a little bit. But as I said, I had the base model, so it had the little 2.2 engine. There's nothing you could really do to it. And I mean, it sounded like crap even with with a factory exhaust on it. It didn't have very much pull up top, barely pulled down below. It was just bad. The only good features that it did have that I liked was that it was a four door and the rear was a hatch. So I could drop the rear seats and I would have a good amount of cargo room so I can haul stuff around, which was kind of cool. But, you know, I'm 19 years old. What the fuck do I have to haul around? Nothing. I lived at home. And, it did come in handy in certain instances when I had to get stuff for, apartments that I lived in and all that kind of stuff. That kind of helped out and it got me to my internships and all that kind of stuff. But, all in all, they were just really, really bad, and there was nothing really good about it. In hindsight, I probably would have been better off searching for like a Corolla or a Civic or something along those lines. But at that time, I guess I didn't have the patience. I guess the best word I was looking for. I mean, I graduated high school and I figured I needed a car ASAP as fast as I could get one. So I put some feelers out to people that I knew and my parents knew when we came across this thing. And, that's how it was. So I had the first car, the Sundance, for I want to say maybe about a year. The transmission was a little bit wonky, but I didn't go very far in it. But the way it drove, it was just a matter of time before the trans just gave out. That's just what it was. And I just rode it till the transmission blew out, and then we went to go look at how much it cost to fix the transmission. Cost more than the cost of the car, so we just scrapped it. Um, as far as interior features. From what I can remember, it had wind down windows, had a cassette deck that I had to use, and I'm dating myself obviously when I say that I had the cassette deck with the cord that plugged into the Discman or the CD player that I kept on like in the little center console area, and then I would play my CDs off of that. And I think probably maybe two or three speakers worked, if that. I mean, it sounded like shit. So, but it was my car, so I was more than happy to to drive around it. When you just have a car, at that age, you're just like, yeah, it's a piece of shit, but it gets me to where I need to go. So that's how I looked at it. And like I said, it drove for about a year and a half, close to, yeah, about a year and a half maybe. And I came back the following summer, and the thing just, I was out and I put it in drive, and it just went vroom, vroom, and it didn't go anywhere. And I was like, oh shit, I guess this thing is finally done. So I called up the tow truck, they picked it up, they brought it to the guy, the mechanic that I knew. And he said, yeah, your trans is shot. So I was just like, fuck. Okay, so back to the drawing board. So I'm looking around more for something a bit cooler than what I had before. So you're like, I went down this road, so now I'm gonna try to find something that's a bit nicer than what I had before. Because naturally, I like to upgrade. You know what I'm saying? I like to be in a progressive kind of move forward. So I had the shadow. I mean the Sundance, and I looked at it and I was like, yeah, I don't want another one of these. I want to find something else. So I'm looking around. I'm looking around. I'm not really finding anything that I think will last for a long time. I mean, I find Corollas and Civics, they have like 150, 160,000 miles on them. And I'm thinking, I need this car for at least to last me through college. So, okay. And then I'm going to be going back and forth from Boston all the time. So low mileage is kind of the key. So lo and behold, they find me another car. I'm like, great, what'd you find me? It's like, oh, it's a Dodge Shadow. I was like, what the fuck is a Dodge Shadow? So I look it up on the internet, and I'm like, God damn it. All right, to hell with it. I'll just take it and end up with the same car, different color, different year. Same engine, same wind down windows, just crap. And I was just like, all right, it's going to get me to Boston and back. That's all I needed to do because I went to college up in Boston. So pile up my little crappy a car, my Dodge Shadow, and I drive it up to college, and I'm up there. And it does a pretty good job. I will say that it wasn't fantastic in the snow, and it wasn't fantastic to drive all the time. But when I needed it, it worked well. You know what I mean? So, and then in Boston, anyway, where I lived, I was right in the downtown section near Northeastern University. If anybody knows, listening in that area, you know exactly. I went to Wentworth, so yeah, that area is just, you know, do you need a car? No, but in certain instances, it's good to have one. So the car mostly spent most of its time in a parking lot. I mean, I'd drive it around on the weekends if need be, but generally speaking, it just kind of stayed where it was during the week. And I think that's one of the reasons why it lasted so long. And then eventually, I come home and, come home for the summer and I'm hanging out doing whatever it is like that. I think I was at my friend's house or something like that. I didn't take the car with me. I think I was in New York or Connecticut or something like that. I forgot where it was. No, it wasn't New York. It was Connecticut. I was in Connecticut at my boy's house. And then my dad calls me up and says, "Hey Chris, your mom backed into your car." And I was like, now mom has a reputation for backing into stuff. It's not the first time. She hit the garage door, she hit my brother's car, and now she hit mine. So I was like, great. How bad is it? He's like, oh, she hit the passenger side fender. I was like, all right, that's okay. So I go back, I look at the car, and where she hit, using my hands is stupid now, but where she hit is kind of like where the fender meets the front passenger door, and she bent it inwards, right? So now during the summer, I don't really notice it, but now I have the slipstream of the car is now blowing inside of the car, blowing inside of the cabin, because the panel is not there to keep the air, most of the air out. So when I'm driving around in the summer in Jersey, in New York, it's 80, 90 degrees. My windows are down, so I don't feel shit. And, I don't feel anything. But man, in that winter up in Boston, let me tell you, whew, it was like a air conditioner. No matter how hard I had the heat blowing, whoever was in that front passenger seat would be freezing. So I had to start keeping a blanket with me and like, here, put this on your legs. Why? You'll figure it out in about 5 minutes when we start going about 40, 50 miles an hour. So I held on to that car for a little while, about a year and a half. And then, I had a little trouble at school with financial aid and stuff like that, and it didn't get passed through in time, so I had to take a semester off. So I went back home. I had to collect all my stuff, and on the way back home, uh, got into a fender bender. Bang! Smashed the hit the front end on a tow hook on a pickup truck. One of the reasons why I don't like pickup trucks, but I'll get into that later. Next, so I look at it. I'm like, okay, the car's still running, and I look under it, and I'm like, oh shit, it's leaking fluid. I mean, that's bad, but I want to see how far I can get this thing. So I'm flying down the turnpike. Well, I'm flying down the freeway in Connecticut. Everything's cool. Car temperature is all right, no problems. I was like, all right, I just might make it. I jinxed myself. Now, if anybody knows 95 coming from New Haven down to the city, it is a parking lot. Unless you're driving through there about like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I think that was the only time that I've actually ever seen that section of highway not have traffic. So, lo and behold, I get to that little section of 95. I think it's 95. It's been a while since I drove on the road. Hold on, let me check real quick. Do, 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 do. Yeah, it's 95. It goes past Bridgeport, Norwalk, Stamford, Greenwich, that area. So I come down, and when you get down near Stamford and Greenwich area, full on stop. And then the car starts overheating and then eventually dies. And I'm like, damn. So I pull over to the side, pop the hood, let the car cool off a little bit, start it up again. It starts after maybe like an hour. The car cooled down enough. Starts again. Then after an hour, I just start driving, and I'm just watching this needle climb and climb and climb and climb. And eventually I get to Port Chester, and I'm like, all right, I can't do it. It's not going to make it home. It's like I'm close, but I'm not close enough. So pull it in, get a tow truck. He pulls me into a garage, and the mechanic pops the thing. He says your radiator's gone, and the front frame is bent. Blah blah blah. You're better off junking it. I was like, great, another car, wonderful. I was happy to be rid of it, but I was kind of sad to see it go. You know what I mean? Like, even if you do have a junky piece of crap car, you still are like, you know what? It's been good to me. So, wrote off that one. And then I came home, and then I'm sitting around, and I found myself a little job in between semesters, and I'm starting working and all that kind of stuff. And eventually I get enough money to buy another car. But that's another story for another time. And as far as the driving habits of the car, that it had the standard floaty boaty late 80s GM suspension. I mean, it rolled like it was on water pretty much. It understeered like a pig. It didn't accelerate very hard. It didn't stop very good either. It was just I don't know what Chrysler Dodge Group was thinking when they made it, but it was not a good car at all. Was it reliable? I didn't really have too many problems with it besides the transmission thing. I mean, it ran pretty well, but it was just an uninspiring heap of metal. And for that, I'm happy it's gone, but it served its purpose. It's like trying to find, something likable about your vacuum cleaner. It just doesn't make any sense. It just, you turn it on, you use it, and you put it back in the closet. That's it. I mean, it didn't have any special features. It didn't have any special things about it. I mean, maybe if I would have got one of the other models, they had a model with the V6 engine, like I said, and they had a model with a turbo engine in it, and they had a model. Some of those models had manual transmissions, so maybe that would have made me like the car a little bit more. If it had a bit more grunt and it had a manual, then I probably would have liked it a bit more because that's the kind of guy I like, that kind of guy I am, not guy I like, sorry, guy I am. But yeah, man, I wasn't a fan of it, and it just, you know, it was a microwave. You turn it on, it does what it does. You turn it off, and you never think about it again until you have to use it. So that was my first two cars. I'll go into my next car in the next episode, which is the '90 Olds Cutlass Sierra S. And, you know, didn't have very good luck with vehicles as far as picking them out goes. So, yeah, stay tuned for the next one, and hope you enjoyed this one. And, just a little trip down memory lane as far as I was concerned. So, enjoy yourself. Take it easy. Later.